What if everything you think you understand about people, consciousness, and even yourself is only an apparent frequency?
When old Billy vanished into the fog, he left behind more than notes. He left a mirror. A mirror reminding us that nothing vibrates at its final state, and that what we perceive is never definitive, only contextual.
In this episode, we enter the subtle territory of frequency, vibration, and alignment, where science, psychology, music, and consciousness converge, and where old Billy quietly asks us a dangerous question.
Are you truly living in expansion, or merely surviving in subtraction?
When the fog descended, silence settled over the village after the discovery of old Billy's departure. His notes were left stacked, serving as entertainment for the locals who chose to share them with others.
Number 049 on frequency and vibration. Parent frequency. Every individualization, whether dense or subtle, is perceived by the prevailing frequency at a given moment. Hence, apparent, never definitive. What we need to understand here is that nothing we identify around us is reverberating at its definitive frequency. Every vibration can be adjusted according to the variations in pressure and temperature of its surroundings. In other words, one cannot define the degree of a consciousness by studying its avatar. Frequency. This is the most fundamental concept for anyone who wants to understand the living flow. It is what truly determines whether one lives in expansion or merely exists in subtraction. We already know that there is an apparent frequency that can mislead us. But which frequency can be trusted for our evaluations? Well, the only infallible frequency is the original one, the one contained within the essence of essences before the first individualization. However, before reaching mastery in aseptic channeling with our own essence, we can practice with the golden frequency. Golden frequency. The frequency of the heart, the frequency of the soul, the high frequency, the superior frequency, the golden frequency, and so on. Much can be said about the golden frequency. It is expressed in most of our notes, and those interested will find illustrative passages about what these two combined words truly contain. But for now, the two most important things to remember are: the golden frequency is simply the best that one can offer in the present moment, neither too much nor too little, just the absolute maximum available right now. By striving for total offering, we get as close as possible to our essence, working first on the frequency of the sender so that the delivered message is magnetized and qualified with the best of oneself. The golden frequency is never in anything. Things merely serve as conduits for the reverberation of the essence of those who create them. Vibrational parity. When we feel attuned to the energy that flows, we enter into alignment. This does not mean good or bad, better or worse, only that there is a resonance between our current level of consciousness and what we are experiencing. Blessed, however, are those who allow themselves to align with the living flow.
John, if you're open to it, I also have an analysis of this note. I made a point of avoiding any aggressive language or rushing to classify the author as a behavioral deviant, and instead concentrated on a positive view from my professional standpoint. I tried to apply what old Billy called the best possible for the moment. I'd like to share my analysis. Psychology would likely interpret the text on frequency and vibration through the lens of cognitive perception, emotional regulation, and consciousness studies. Here's how different psychological perspectives might engage with the ideas presented. 1. Perception and consciousness, cognitive psychology and neuroscience. The concept of apparent frequency aligns with the idea that human perception is subjective and shaped by environmental stimuli. The brain constantly interprets sensory input, meaning our experiences are filtered through mental constructs rather than being direct reflections of reality. The reference to frequency shifts could be seen as a metaphor for neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself in response to new experiences and learning. 2. Emotional resonance, affective psychology and psychophysiology. The golden frequency, associated with the heart, soul, and essence, could be linked to emotional coherence, a state in which emotions, thoughts, and physiological responses are in harmony. Studies on heart rate variability, HRV, show that emotions like gratitude and love can create a stable and rhythmic heart pattern, which some researchers interpret as physiological evidence of emotional well-being. Paridade vibrational parity might correspond to the psychological concept of flow state, when an individual is fully immersed in an activity with a sense of effortlessness and alignment. 3. Self-actualization and identity, humanistic and transpersonal psychology. The text's emphasis on aligning with one's essence resonates with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, particularly self-actualization, where a person reaches their full potential. Carl Jung's theories on individuation, the process of integrating different aspects of the self, also align with the notion of refining perception to reach deeper truths. The idea of tuning into a different frequency to expand consciousness connects with transpersonal psychology, which explores experiences beyond the ego, such as mystical states and peak experiences. 4. Behavioral influence, behaviorism, and social psychology. The notion that frequency determines experience could relate to the idea of conditioning, where thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are shaped by repeated exposure to certain stimuli. Social resonance, vibrational alignment with others, might correlate with mirror neurons, which allow individuals to subconsciously sync their emotions and behaviors with those around them. Final thoughts. Psychology would likely view on frequency and vibration as a metaphor for human perception, cognition, and emotional states. The text encourages a more mindful, attuned way of experiencing life, which aligns with therapeutic practices such as mindfulness, positive psychology, and cognitive reframing.
Thanks, Dr. Gravanna. I would like to comment on your analyses by the end of all presentations. Yes, Onyx Maestro, I knew you'd want to weigh in on this. We'd love to hear your perspective on how the science of music relates to Old Billy's note.
Oh Dio mio. I could talk about music and frequency for ages. The golden frequency is not an absolute value, but rather the best one can offer in the present moment. I've got a comprehensive analysis I did at home. Can I share it with you? Here we go. The science of music, particularly in fields like acoustics, psychoacoustics, and music theory, would interpret the text on frequency and vibration through the lens of sound waves, resonance, harmonic structures, and the relationship between frequency and perception. Here's how musical science might engage with the concepts presented. 1. Frequency as the foundation of sound. In music, frequency is the fundamental property that defines pitch. The text's discussion on apparent frequency aligns with the understanding that all sounds are perceived based on their fundamental and overtone frequencies. No sound exists in isolation. Rather, it interacts with its environment, changing due to resonance, interference, and harmonic relationships. The notion that no vibration is definitive could be compared to how musical notes are never truly fixed but fluctuate slightly based on instrumental timbre, tuning systems, and external influences. 2. The concept of harmonic resonance. The text's reference to parity vibrational, aligning with a particular energy, finds a direct parallel in the concept of resonance in music. Resonance occurs when a sound wave reinforces another at a matching frequency, leading to amplification. Just as the text suggests that individuals align with vibrational states, musical instruments and voices naturally resonate with sympathetic frequencies, creating richer, fuller sounds. 3. The golden frequency as a musical ideal. The golden frequency, described in the text as the best one can offer in the present moment, has an interesting connection to the golden ratio, often used in music composition to create aesthetically pleasing proportions in phrasing and form. It could also relate to just intonation, a tuning system designed to create pure, harmonious intervals. Philosophically, this idea is similar to the musician's pursuit of playing with their best tone, or producing the most expressive sound possible in the moment. And here, I wish to underscore the in-the-moment detail, as both music and life are experienced within the present. 4. Tuning systems and subjective perception of frequency. The text suggests that different vibrational states impact perception, much like how tuning systems in music, for example, A equals 440 Hz versus A equals 432 Hz, are believed by some to influence emotional and even physiological states. Psychoacoustics studies how different frequencies can evoke emotional responses, which aligns with the idea that the golden frequency could serve as an optimal state for human experience. 5. The role of vibration beyond sound. Musical science acknowledges that vibration is not only audible, but also physical, something felt in the body and the environment. This corresponds with the idea in the text that frequency is not just about what is heard, but also about an energetic experience. This is evident in practices such as binaural beats, overtone singing, and vibrational therapy, where frequencies are used to induce meditative or healing states. Conclusion: music as a model of consciousness and frequency. Old Billy's text presents a metaphysical view of frequency, while music provides a physical and mathematical framework for its understanding. In both perspectives, frequency is a force that shapes perception, aligns energies, and creates meaning, whether in the universe or in the experience of a single note played on an instrument.
Analysis of the text on frequency and vibration. The text presents a deep and layered perspective on the concepts of frequency and vibration, with a strong metaphysical and philosophical approach. It explores how everything in existence, whether dense or subtle, is perceived based on its prevailing frequency at a given moment, emphasizing that no frequency is truly definitive. Key themes and insights. Apparent frequency versus definitive frequency. The text establishes that everything we perceive is vibrating at an apparent frequency, which is not permanent. It suggests that vibrations can be adjusted based on external conditions like pressure and temperature, indicating a fluid and dynamic nature of existence. A key idea here is that one cannot define the level of consciousness of an entity merely by studying its outward form or avatar. The role of frequency in life's expansion or subtraction. The text suggests that frequency determines whether an entity is expanding in life, growth, enlightenment, or merely existing in a state of subtraction, stagnation, limitation. It introduces the idea that apparent frequencies can be misleading, and the only reliable frequency is the original frequency, the pure essence before individualization. The golden frequency. This is described as the highest and most authentic frequency one can embody at any given moment. The golden frequency is not an absolute value, but rather the best one can offer in the present moment. It ties into the idea of self-alignment and authenticity, giving one's fullest, truest expression in any situation. The text also warns against associating frequency with material objects, reinforcing that things are merely conductors of essence, not essence itself. Vibrational parity and alignment. Alignment with flowing energy is seen as a way to achieve a harmonious state. The text does not frame this alignment in terms of good or bad, but rather as a state of resonance with one's current level of consciousness. However, it praises those who seek alignment with the living flow, suggesting that doing so leads to a more profound and enriched experience of existence. Philosophical and metaphysical implications. The text presents a non-dualistic and fluid understanding of reality. It moves away from rigid classifications of things as fixed or definitive and instead embraces continuous evolution and transformation. The concept of original frequency suggests that everything has a core essence that remains unchanged despite apparent fluctuations. The golden frequency embodies the idea that personal authenticity and effort towards alignment with one's essence are the highest attainable states of being. The notion of vibrational parity acknowledges that people and circumstances naturally align based on their frequencies, reinforcing the idea that growth is a journey of conscious attunement. Final thoughts. This text serves as an invitation to self-awareness and mindful existence. It encourages individuals to observe their vibrational states, to offer their best in the moment, and to align with the living flow rather than resisting it. The perspective is deeply rooted in spiritual self-mastery, advocating for conscious frequency tuning as a means of expanding one's reality.
Dr. Dustin Gravanna, I noticed your care in avoiding any labeling or aggression. Your contribution gives us a broader view of the subject. I'd love to see this professional approach become the norm for those working with mental and emotional health, especially for people like old Billy, who push past their limits and the Betic system's constraints. Take my earlier comment as a compliment. Your analysis was brilliant, but your care was truly exemplary. Thanks, Dr. Gravanna, and thanks to Ava and Maestro Onyx Senatori. With all these detailed analyses, I suggest taking another look at old Billy's original text once you've had time to process everything we've discussed. It was a lot to take in, wasn't it? Thanks again.